Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado, and I hope you're doing well. There has been a concerning uptick in political violence this last week, and I wanted to make sure you saw these stories because these are things that may be affecting communities across Colorado. Some of them are making the news, not all of them are. So let's go ahead and take a look here in Broomfield. So this is from the Broomfield County Republicans, posted at 9 hours ago from when this video is. That's Wednesday, October 29th, 2025 at 9:52 in the morning. It says several residents are reporting receiving anonymous postcards attacking them simply for having candidate signs in their yards. We may not all agree politically, but this crosses a line. The letter here, the postcard says, Dear Blank, just writing to thank you for displaying your political signs. It's such a service to the community, letting everyone know who thinks hypocrisy is faith, racism is acceptable, cruelty is strength, and corruption is patriotism. Now we know who to vote against, praying for you. Now, there is a postmark on here from October 25th, 2025 from Denver, Colorado. There's no stamp, which is kind of confusing to me. But nonetheless, I wanted to bring this up. There's a clear intimidation tactic being deployed here in Broomfield, going after people I can only assume are on the right side of the political spectrum. So coming from the left, some vitriol out there, people. Be careful. Very concerning, but we should not be intimidated. We cannot be silenced because, people tell us to anonymously take our signs down. Let's go ahead and jump over now to Boulder. So in Boulder, there's a situation here where a young man was attacked by a hockey stick. This is the suspect, it looks like here. This is from Boulder Police Department on X. This is October 24th, 2025. Boulder Police release additional higher quality photos of person of interest in reported hockey stick assault. Investigators seek assistance from the community. So this is Andy No reporting on this one here, and he says that Colorado Antifa groups, Front Range Antifa and Colorado Springs Antifa, put out a hit list on a 19-year-old Turning Point USA student leader at the University of Colorado Boulder, shortly before he was beaten by someone with a hockey stick near campus. Antifa put their logos on the hit list flyer to make it clear who was responsible for the call for violent direct action. Antifa accuses the teen of being a member of various quote unquote Nazi groups. The flyer was shared across social media by leftists, including the communist group Boulder Students for a Democratic Society. Convicted communist terrorist Bill Ayers was a member of the SDS. So Andy No has blocked out really the photos and all of this information. But this was the kid who was attacked, this Turning Point USA guy. He's a sophomore in engineering, 19 years old from Durango, going to see you. Now, I did kind of look into him. I did go to their website, the Antifa type website, just to kind of do my research, right? Do my due diligence and see what they say. And yeah, it sounds like this kid probably is making bad decisions and saying stupid things. Not necessarily the best guy out there, from what I can tell. If everything is true about what the Antifa people are saying about this kid that got attacked, then he's making some bad choices, doing some bad stuff, right? He has maybe some really bad opinions. Maybe he does have some stuff that is inexcusable, some thoughts there. But the answer is not violence, folks. I mean, I know you're watching this, that's obvious to you that the answer is not violence. If this kid has bad ideas and is making foolish statements, then having conversations, dismissing those ideas in a public forum, talking about it is what's going to make a difference, right? Not attacking somebody with a hockey stick or even worse, right? I mean, that's going in the wrong direction for sure. And it's so interesting too, right? Because you see these people, these individuals who are accused of saying horrible things, of saying bad stuff that maybe is socially unacceptable and maybe is reprehensible. But really, from the left, they're so concerned that this speech is going to lead to some sort of violence, right? They're worried about their marginalized communities, that this speech is going to put those people in a bad position or a bad situation. And yet, the people on the left are the ones acting out and using the violence. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not good. It's not in the right direction here. Folks, this post that Andy No posted has got 600,000 views on X, 450,000 views on his follow-up here. Escaping the Rainbow Plantation, a good friend of mine there, Rich Guggenheim, 500 views on his post there talking about it. But yeah, a lot of craziness going on there. So that's kind of the second story I wanted to cover over in Boulder. And then this is the big one, right? This is the big one. Well, here's real quick. Here's from the city of Boulder. This is their little press release on that guy who attacked. Again, links at freestatecolorado.com if maybe you know who that guy is. If you know who this person is in Boulder, then definitely worth reporting to the police, I'd say, because he's apparently violently hurt somebody, and that is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. But the big story here, this is ongoing. This is major drama, major issues, and of course, this is a pattern that we're seeing happen nationwide. We see immigrations and customs enforcement, ICE, Department of Homeland Security facilities being attacked, agents being attacked, vehicles being attacked, and we see people blocking these activists in their quote unquote peaceful protests, blocking access to these facilities, not allowing law enforcement to access or enter or leave the facilities, these federal law enforcement facilities. So that's very concerning, folks. Very concerning. And this is happening down in Durango here. Durango does not have a good reputation. Let's take a look here at the article. ICE's arrest of father, two children in Durango spark local protests. Law enforcement appeared to fire less lethal projectiles and shove protesters who had sought to block ICE vehicles from leaving a Durango field office. So yeah, you can kind of see some of the pictures there. We're gonna check out the video here. This is published October 28th, 2025, updated October 29th. Here's to the background. Two children and their father on their way to school were detained by federal immigration agents in southwestern Colorado on Monday, sparking protests from demonstrators who tried to prevent the family from being separated and moved to different facilities. Videos of the protest posted on social media Tuesday show law enforcement clashing with demonstrators outside a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office in Durango, where agents in tactical gear carried weapons capable of firing less lethal projectiles. Video taken overnight shows one agent taking and throwing a woman's phone and then throwing the woman to the ground. Other protesters appear to have been hit by projectiles fired by federal officers. Fernando Jaramillo Solano and his two children, ages 12 and 15, were detained by ICE on Monday morning while driving near their house, said the co-executive director of the Compañeros Four Corners Immigrant Resource Center, and we're going to be looking at their Facebook page here shortly. The family applied for asylum after coming to Colorado from Colombia and has an active ongoing immigration case. The children's mother, who is the primary applicant on the asylum case, has not been detained, the group said. So you can read through this if you'd like. I won't go into too much of the details, but I think some of the big news here is the fact that these people, these individuals, these activists, the people who are trying to prevent these deportations are actively obstructing law enforcement, and they would agree with that. I'm not saying anything contrary to what they are doing. Right? They're blocking the gates. You'll see in the videos they're really trying to ensure that nobody leaves the facility because they don't want this family separated. I mean, what do you think's going to happen if you're blocking access to federal law enforcement building? You're not letting law enforcement agents inside or outside. I mean, you're going to get pepper sprayed, you're going to get maced, you're probably going to get arrested, right? So it says protesters began to gather outside the facility shortly after the arrest Monday. When an attorney later arrived to again try to provide documents to ICE, legal aides were told by ICE that the family would be detained together. We can go past that here. The protest continued on to Tuesday morning and afternoon. Law enforcement began handcuffing and pulling people sitting in front of the office's gates. A group of Colorado State Patrol troopers were also present and appeared to be clearing the road so several SUVs could leave the building. Protesters threw objects and bottles of water at the SUVs, one of which grazed a protester standing in the roadway as it sped past them. So, there you go. Some stuff there. It's interesting to read the Denver Post slant on it, and I do encourage you to actually watch the video and you see if the sympathy from the Denver Post is necessarily warranted. Of course, the Denver Post is very left leaning, very pro illegal immigration. But we're going to jump over here to the Facebook page of this Compañeros Four Corners Immigrant Resource Center here. So this is the organization down in Durango, and their whole purpose, it seems, is to help illegal immigrants, right? And legal immigrants too, I assume, but really to help people who are under threat of deportation or of some sort of immigration enforcement. So this is kind of the first post here. So this is Monday, October 27th at 12:24 p.m. So we saw the background in the Denver Post article, kind of gave you an overview, and now we're going to go into some of the details here and see some of the video. So they said, call to action. Everyone now. Children abducted by ICE, not on our watch. We're gathering right now at 32 Shepherd Drive, Durango, and that's where the facility is. Come with respect, unity, and care for one another. Be alert, there may be people who are not allies trying to stir conflict or shift attention away from protecting our community. Do not engage, stay peaceful and focused. So they post a Google link here to where it's at. And, I don't think it's any secret where it's at. You'll see it in the photos. But just to give you an idea here, you can see how There's only really two entrances or really minimal ways to get in and out of the facility here, kind of in the center of the screen. So their strategy was to block it, use kind of human shields, and prevent these people from being deported. So it continues on here. This is at 4:07 p.m. on Monday, October 27th. Urgent call to the community, and I'm reading all this because these are kind of the people, it seems to me at least. There's others too, but who are organizing this event, and so I think it's important to understand and see what's actually happening here. Urgent call to the community. There are two children being detained at the ICE office in Durango. These children are students. Please come to the office to protest. Bring people there as well. They also posted it in Spanish. So they continue on there, telling people they're going to be there overnight, making a peaceful presence outside the office. And they're going to be there all night. And of course, it ends up being where they're blocking it all. So, you can see what they were doing, blowing whistles, making noise, really trying to be a disturbance. And they're flashing this big image. If you can't see it, let me see if I can make this bigger for you. They're flashing this image on the ICE office down there, the building, the detention center. It says, ICE, you're not welcome. They're trying to get them to leave and really just harassing the people inside the building, blowing the whistles, and really trying to cause some chaos, really. I mean, if you'd ever did that to a police department, a police building, the state capitol, any of that, don't recommend anything like that, right? You can see how it could potentially cause some bad consequences for individuals doing that, I would say. So they were there all night, trying to get people to show up, trying to get people involved, this and that. And then that night is really when things started getting a little crazier, it seems. So, you might not necessarily be able to hear the audio just because of my software I'm using. But they do announce this car is going to be moving in a few seconds. You see somebody who's identified as police on their jacket standing right there in front of the vehicle, really trying to clear a path, right? So obviously the intention of these activists, of these individuals, is to prevent law enforcement from accessing the facility, prevent people from going in and out. And there are law enforcement vehicles, SUVs, trying to get into the facility. So you see one agent clearing everything and trying to make some space so they can get through. You see fire pits, sleeping bags, just junk, trash laying on the ground, blankets, things like that. And you see one of the officers trying to move everything. The activists are blowing whistles, trying to be a disturbance, just trying to express themselves there. You see one of the agents there pour out and knock over the fire pit, and other individuals standing there. So um, we'll see what happens here. Of course, the caption you can read at the bottom says, "We need you all now. They are assaulting us." Of course, no assault has happened so far. There is people standing in front of the SUV, and they have announced that it will be moving shortly. But of course, the people standing in front of the SUV, I can only assume, are trying to prevent it from moving and using their bodies as human shields. So, one agent here grabbed the lady's phone, threw it. One law enforcement officer did. And I don't know what happens. It happens off camera, but it looks like she tries to, there's some sort of scuffle. She maybe put hands on him. I don't know. And then he's grabbing her and throws her to the ground there, with other people pushing. I'm surprised, honestly, that it didn't get worse than that. You would think that people would be arrested. People be in situations when lady yells, "Call 911," which is kind of interesting. Call the police, call an ambulance. So that's really it. That's the big excitement there that people were talking about. But of course, these law enforcement are just really trying to clear a path to get into the facility. So that's the initial thing, right? So that's Monday night. Moving along here, you can see it kind of continue blasting the thing on the building. You can hear him yelling and shouting, lights flashing, helicopter going. That's probably the police helicopter, seeing what's going on. As I'm sure people were calling 911. You can see the ICE, "You're not welcome here," being flashed on the building, whistles going off, and individuals trying to create a disturbance, of course. And they say they're fighting for these immigrants to prevent them from being deported. Um, so you can see that go on apparently all night. And then they're trying to get allies there. They're trying to get people to show up. So this ends up being on Tuesday, um, October 28th, as it goes. They're trying to reach out to the legislators, this and that. But of course, here goes the next day, and this is kind of some of the interesting stuff. So I'm going to jump over to some of the other videos here. Of course, this is from New York Post, so this is making national headlines, international headlines, of course, as Colorado often does. 8,500 views on YouTube, where he grabs her phone, throws it. You can't see what happens afterwards except for the little scuffle that we just watched. So again, links at freestatecolorado.com if you're interested in digging a little bit deeper. That morning, Michael Bennett, yesterday, the Durango community came together to peacefully protest the cruel actions of an ICE raid that separated our family and stuff. So he's using this as a campaign piece. Of course, Jared Polis and all the others are doing the same. But I want you to see this and tell me, do you really think this is peaceful? Do you think that what they're doing is intentionally obstructing law enforcement activity? Of course it is. But here's that road where we can see, and then the gate to get in and out. So all these people are sitting in front of it, locking arms to prevent any agents from accessing the facility. And they're really they're yelling, let them go, because they don't want to see these kids being separated from their parents. They don't want to see them, assumably, the dad being deported. Not sure what they think otherwise. I'm going to speed it up here. This is a 26-minute long video. I will not play the whole video. Um, there's another one too that's shorter, but I'll just kind of give you some of the highlights here as we go forward. But you just can kind of see, as we saw in the aerial view, that these people are clearly trying to just block and prevent access to the facility. That's really their main strategy. I mean, if you did that, folks, if you lay down in a human shield to prevent people from law enforcement from getting in and out of their police station, what do you think's going to happen, right? So no surprises, of course, when law enforcement says no, we need to get in. You can see the vehicles lined up here. Now, some of these are Durango police, from what I've heard. They're really trying to create a human shield and trying to prevent access. But again, this is law enforcement, and you're trying to obstruct them. Not trying to repeat myself too much here, but just trying to get you some of the context and speed it up a little bit. You can see this, what you can only assume is a tense standoff. Of course, it's only a matter of time before the pepper spray and the mace and the pepper balls and the tear gas and this and that could be deployed. Not sure that they actually use tear gas, but everything else. You see law enforcement coming in, and you see all these people running around yelling they need a medic because some guy got maced. But of course, what are they going to do? I mean, they're going to mace the people who are there. And of course, the activists don't like that. They're trying to prevent that. They sure got enough people with their phones out trying to get on video. And people are yelling when somebody yelled, "Why are you doing this?" It's like, come on, you know what they're doing. Durango police is supposedly facing some criticism for being involved in this, but of course, there's an unruly scene in their town, their city. People are assaulting law enforcement, in which you'll see they're throwing things at vehicles. What are they going to do? So they're really attempting to clear a path here, kind of move forward and get through. So you can see the vehicle finally leaves, and you can see water bottles being thrown, other items being thrown, of course, flying right by the heads of these agents. People putting hands on law enforcement. They're pushing them back. They're pepper spraying them after they're being shoved. You know, I don't know. It's so interesting because some of these tactics on the left, right, they're really trying to provoke a response because they know they can get the headlines. They know they can potentially get the sympathy. Um, and that's what's going to make the news, right? Is these people being attacked. So, provoking a response, getting out there. And, this is the story as far as I could tell. I'm not presuming to know the whole situation here, of course. But that's really it. So, I mean, interesting stuff, I suppose. Not too crazy, but nonetheless, when you really think about it, when you really see what's happening here in Colorado, in other places across the country, there is this contingent of individuals who are intent on trying to cause chaos and trying to disrupt federal law enforcement and are willing to, I don't want to use the word invite violence, but when you're locking arms in front of a law enforcement building like this, what do you think is going to happen, right? I mean, here's a little bit more. It's a little bit shorter video, but nonetheless, you can check it out if you want and see what happened there. So interesting stuff. I don't think it's necessarily good in any respect, right? This is not what we want to see in our community. This is not what we want to see for the future of our country, for the future of our state. Um, you know, People who are willing to accept the use of violence in order to fulfill a political agenda is very dangerous to the future, right? And then I couldn't help once I saw this headline too. I had to bring it up here. This is from October 29th, so just a little bit ago. Quick reaction: National Guard forces to be trained for civil disturbances by 2026, U.S. officials say. So, not good, folks. Not good all the way around. See escalation on many sides. You see the country kind of moving in the wrong direction. You see a lot of vitriol, a lot of people who are threatening their neighbors, who are putting out hits on political opponents and people they don't like, and people willing to resort to violence instead of having a conversation. So, anyways, try not to be the bearer of bad news here, but I thought it was interesting information. I wanted to share it with you, and I wanted to make sure you saw it. And most importantly, I have everything linked at freestatecolorado.com so that you can go look yourself. You can look at all this information and see what makes sense to you. So, really appreciate you, folks. We'll talk to you soon, and take care.